Today, I was planning to record a video about the latest Joseon shoujo anime for this spring season, but I recently played a game live called Tokyo Debunker.
そんなに俺様に食われんのが嬉しいか?
Whoa! 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 Who is this? Who is this? And as much as I had fun playing it, there were a bit too many suspicious things about this game's content. And no one really made a deep dive into this, so here I am. So Tokyo Debunker is an Otome game. If you pre-register, you can get a chance to win merchandise, and if you also retweet any of their current tweets right now. When you first load up the game, you get this short dramatic cutscene and someone saying to take someone's hand. And there are about 19 out of 21 boys in 7 different dorms you can pick from. After selecting, we cut to a foreshadowing scene of what seems to be the future. Kind of like this is a future you have to prevent from happening later on in the story. Depending on who you choose, you attempt to save them from jumping off, but they do anyway. We then cut to a scene where we are on the train returning home from a concert. MC gets a text and we learn that the band or group MC saw perform had their final performance, and so everyone starts leaving the group chat except for this person named Mina. We start talking to them and then very quickly they creepily state that they always wanted to meet us after finding out they're on the same train as MC. Before we could continue texting Mina, the train makes an announcement that the train is stopping at Kisagari Station, which is a popular urban legend in Japan. MC looks up and now we're in a horror game. Everything is red. Mina calls us and you can either accept the call or decline. Mina says she's coming to get you. She grabs your shoulder and you turn around to see her big, pretty eye. Some crazy redhead breaks through the glass and guns down the monster, so that threat is averted, but now you have another threat to deal with because he tries throwing you out the window. But don't worry, we get to live because another guy shows up. Redhead leaves, the new guy tries to erase our memory, but it doesn't work, and he's upset that we can see the fire from the match. We go inside a vending machine, and we float in outer space for a bit, and get on a floating train station. We then head to Darwick Academy via flying train, where Kat is a conductor. We get patched up by a hot professor, meet Hyde, and the chancellor of the school. We discover the MC is cursed because we look into the eyes of the anomaly at the train, and we have 1 year left to live. So we're gonna spend our last year alive being observed and locked up at this academy. MC didn't like that, so she chose to run away, and we got into a bunch of situations and meet some sillies. We get an engagement we can't take off that was given to us by a demon we captured apparently, and that means we're a ghoul, just like the other boys we met. Yep, that's right. Each and every single boy here have devoured a demon, aka sold their soul to a devil in exchange for supernatural powers, which are called stigmas. Our stigma is the power to enchant other stigmas. They give us the role of inspector, which means we go on missions with other ghouls and write reports on what happened on each mission. Oh, and we're an honor student as well because we bypassed ordinary admissions, so we gotta go to class on top of all of that, but we aren't assigned to a house. Perfect timing too, because tonight is apparently the entrance ceremony. At least we get free housing and a scholarship. Carly. And that's the prologue. I haven't played the other chapters yet, and I'm not sure how many they are, frankly. It's an idle game, so the chapters unlock as time passes. And I'm pretty sure people have only been able to unlock up to chapter 3 based on what I've seen on the internet. But that should give you the gist of how the story is like. Each episode after the prologue focuses on a case and a dorm, and it looks like it's going in the order of how the dorms are presented in the character selection screen. Yeah, the plot has a bunch of tropes thrown together, and yes, it's hard not to see the similarities between other popular Jusumike and Otome games and other works, but I have to admit, I still had fun reading it, and the translations and voice work were really fun on top of it all. Still, there's a bunch of problems with this game. For example, there's almost no gameplay despite having an overwhelming amount of features to this game. Most of this game is an idle grinding type of game where you just wait for money to accumulate. There are battles you can do called cases, but it's not a turn-based RPG type of battle. It's just you watch them play. It's always on auto, and you can just skip. So there really isn't any gameplay to that. There are bonus stages, however, which is basically a one-tap rhythm game where you have to tap the screen to have the cat change direction. Unfortunately, once you clear the stage, you cannot play it again. You can also join guilds, add and chat with friends, chat in the global chat that is riddled with spam and links that you'll definitely get a virus from, pick those chat messages, train cards, assign artifacts or accessories to your cards to make them stronger, change the color of your text and username, something about link bonuses, you have different elementals for each card, you can collect carrots, apparently, fish, do raids, text the boys which are treated like side stories, and you can only access them if you raise affinity points with one boy, meaning this is an Otome stat raising game, but not really because it's not in the main story, so I have no idea what's going on over there. You have like 100 million missions and dailies to complete with so many rewards. There's limit break if you max a card, and awakening, unique skills, warding cards, equipments, untrain those equipments and warding cards, potency grades, bravery and savagery, cosmic bonds, which are like stats that apply to all your cards, global rankings for like 3 different aspects of this game, send your squad to a camp to train them even more and raise their affinity with you, PvP with other players in an arena, make friend group chats. The point is, there's so much you can do in this game if you aren't reading the main story. Too much, in my opinion. I feel like you can play this game for weeks on end and still have lots of content to go through. As far as I know, there isn't a stamina bar or anything like that which stops you from continuing for the day, but there is the money accumulation aspect of this game, so if you want to continue to the next chapter, you have to wait a couple hours until you have enough money to rank up your character. And then when you ranked up your character's cards, then you could probably pass the battle, and you just do that over and over and over again. Oh yeah, there's gacha in this game. Look at it. It takes 500 pulls to get to Pity on a limited time banner, and it does not carry to the next banner. What game does this? The devs have shown their greediness in other aspects of the game as well. If you want to change your name, it costs gems, and they don't tell you that. If you want to change your profile picture, you have to spend gems. That's okay though, right? Because you have like 24 billion rewards that gives you gems and other things. The beginner banner is locked for beginners unless you go to the shop and buy gems. You can't just buy anything, you need to buy at least 1,980 gems, which is about $21.99. There's a battle pass, a $10 monthly subscription, Black Cat weekly subscription, setup weekly bonus subscription, which is different from the Black Hat because they so generously make you wait 3 days before you're buying the next step, which has more rewards and costs more than the previous step, a daily shop if you can't wait 3 days or until next week to throw money into this game, a beginner shop, a weekly mini bonus shop, and a weekly big bonus shop, and so much. Who is the owner of this game? Mr. Krabs himself? Right now, I'm looking into the future, and if this game truly follows in the footsteps of other Yosemite gacha games on the market today, then they are going to have events and limited time event banners, which is actually one of them is running right now, and I just don't see that going well. The base of the game is already weak as it is, and the player base will definitely complain, and they are already complaining. And seeing how they respond to their player base right now by outright blocking them or hiding the replies on Twitter, this game does not have a bright future. And if you haven't noticed yet, there's another problem with this game despite the blatant greediness, lack of gameplay, outright boring tropes from other IPs, and it's messy, gooey. I had my suspicions when I was playing the game, but I decided to not point it out as I didn't know if it was my capture card acting up and affecting the visuals on my iPad or the background images were actually that low res. You can see a lot of it in the background when the main story is not in the webcomic format portion. For some reason, the webcomic is in a much higher resolution as well compared to the background. It's odd that they just couldn't ask the artists to make the backgrounds for the non-web comic portions of the main story, but it's probably because they just didn't pay that artist to do so. There's a webtoon artist, there's a character artist, there's a card art artist. We also see AI images used in the personality quiz with Professor Hyde. The images are small, but when you take a closer look, it's hard to miss. Also, at the end of the quiz, you get a warden card, and that warden card is supposed to be like the background art of the dormitory that you fit to be in. And one of the dorms straight up just pulls a background image from an anime called Death Parade. I don't think that's legal, and I'm pretty sure Japan is pretty strict about their copyright laws with that, so we'll see if they actually get caught. The other warning cards you can get from this personality card do seem to be also AI backgrounds, unfortunately. I started looking through the rest of the app and suspected anything that appeared low res or mismatched to the rest of the app's GUI and assets could be AI art as well. I do suspect, however, that the background images of the card art could be AI art as well, or AI art that has just been painted over. The lighting on the boys compared to that low-res background just doesn't match as well in some cards. The next thing I did was take a look at the credits behind the game. I wanted to see which artists they hired. The credits button opened up a web page with nothing but plain text. We only learned that it was developed by Zigzag Games Inc., and they have a reputation that I will get into later this video. One track, however, is composed by a real person. It's a no copyright background music for video, as the video description says on YouTube. And they also credit their horror sound effects to another YouTube channel called Laura's Horror Sounds. And that's it. A lot of the music is remixed from classical music when I listened closely. I tried to find out if they were the ones who remixed it or if someone else did. It probably was outsourced to somebody else, but they just didn't name the names. Later in the main story, however, you often hear classical music that is available in the public domain. So, yeah. As for the translators, they're real people. I saw some people on the Twitter timeline say that they translated some parts of the game, and I'm pretty sure I saw a localization studio also take part of this game, so that's good that they're real people. And this goes without saying, but the rigging was also done with real people, and it also shows really well. I also found them on Twitter. They did a really good job. I'm really proud of the character designs, and their work really shined in this game. The voice actors as well seem to be veterans in the industry. Jade's VA is even there. So they are definitely paying a lot for voice actors and translators and rigging. Not background artists though. But why? If they could afford translators, voice actors, artists for their assets, and live 2D artists and riggers, why not background artists? Usually the main selling point of games like this is its original and unique art style that you can't get anywhere else. So using AI art completely undermines its selling point, especially when it looks as bad as this. It also comes off as cheap, tacky, and unprofessional. The bare minimum could have been to at least license some stock images for the background. Was it a matter of time or budget? Let's start from the very beginning when Tokyo Debunker was first announced to the world. 5 years ago in 2019. Yes, this game has been in the works for 5 years. There were some delays. The first delay announcement was in December of 2019. Tokyo Debunker was actually going to be very much different from the final product. Instead of 21 boys, the initial concept had 5 boys you could choose from. And the set date for it was in April 2020. There wasn't any horror involved, you weren't a student, and there was no school setting. You were a reporter turned manager for a group called Debunkers, who solved mysteries and captured infected individuals called ghouls. The catch is that the debunkers are also ghouls as well, so that part stayed the same. Everything seemed to be set. They had a theme song sung by a pretty well-known utai. They had their voice actors, they also had the CG art ready to go, their story set, and non-AI art backgrounds. Anyways, before the release date came along, we all know what happened in March 2020, the pandemic. And just how the pandemic changed the world, it also changed Tokyo Debunker as well. Tokyo Debunker's social media went silent except for the ads. The ads just kept on coming. In June 2020, they announced that they will be pushing back the release date indefinitely. On October 24th, 2023, they made an update. They stated that they apologized for the delay and that in light of escalating competition with the gaming industry, we realized that it was imperative to elevate the quality of our game further to meet your expectations. Now, to me, this is wild because right before they delayed and canceled, everything was ready to go. Literally. They just needed to do one or two more things and it would have been released to the world. Literally a month away before the pandemic started and lockdown started. So, why would they just suddenly say, oh, we need to spend more money to just rehash the game into something completely better? The next post was them posting promo images that can be found on the App Store. Nothing which reflects actual gameplay except for this image showcasing the comics. Eventually, they announced that the app is coming out on April 18th. They also started running really creepy ads that seemed clickbaity but had familiar assets that we see in today's game. Finally, the app was released and here we are. So essentially, they changed everything about the premise of the game to the point where they aren't really in Tokyo anymore. Most of the game is spent in an academy like Twisted Wonderland, OnStars, and Obey, which is fair. It's easier to write things in a school setting because a school is something that everyone has experienced before than, let's say, being a manager for an investigation group, and that's why the trope is so popular. The art style completely changed from a generic anime one to something you would see in an ensemble stars, in my opinion. I want to say it's Twisted Wonderland, but the art style is not there. They definitely took the ceremonial robes bit part. They've added in gacha, which throws everything sideways, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, I will still play Otome gacha games, but adding gacha after the fact it was stated to not have any gacha or any other card collecting aspect will throw away the audience you had. Gacha in Otome means you usually have to use these cards for something, which is usually battles or during rhythm games, meaning some type of gameplay that hasn't existed before will block players from continuing to the next chapter/stage of the main story. That's usually how the mechanic of gacha plays out in mobile Otome games. Wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people from their pre-release audience left after finding out that there's gacha involved. This is an entirely different game now, and the title does not reflect that. The question is, why would this happen? What was going on behind the scenes? Zigzaga Game Inc. was first founded in July 2008 by two brothers who saved up money from their summer jobs when they were students. They currently have a subsidiary as well in Seattle, Washington. Their first mark in the industry is an app called Hunter Island in 2013. It's an RPG game that works similar to Pokemon with free chat and PvP. It grew popular and seems to be well loved by its player base as a nostalgic childhood game. To my knowledge, it's only available on iOS devices, but currently not on the App Store because of the iOS 11 update. However, their next game called Neo Monsters includes some of the monsters from Hunter Island, so I think it's safe to say that Neo Monsters is the sister game of Hunter Island. Unfortunately, it does not look like most players of Hunter Island liked Neo Monsters, as most of the comments under their social media posts state that it's a pay-to-win, too expensive, has unclear explanations of where everything is, and not the game they were promised after waiting for years. Sound familiar? After that, they released an app called Evertale, which is infamous for its clickbaity ads and false promises of it being a horror version of Pokemon, which is interesting because apparently the game was not advertised like that at first. What probably happened by looking at the reviews on the App Store is the previous player base from Neo Monsters and Hunter Island were disappointed with the lack of monster catching like the previous games did, since the gameplay seemed to focus more on fan service. The ads started getting popular, and so they switched up their appearance to match the ads. This is their promo images from before the ads blew up to after they blew up and to what it is currently. These ads also contain a lot of inspiration from other games like Omori's White Space and Chrono Trigger. Sometimes these ads are just blatantly ripping out assets from other games and slapping them on there with no edits. So many videos on YouTube already go into a deep dive about these ads and the false advertising of the actual gameplay and assets, which seems to be just a generic fantasy turn-based combat with some waifus. Most of the reviews for the studio online are from previous employees who worked in the Tokyo office, either foreign workers who got a visa from them or native Japanese workers. There were many claims of having to work crazy amounts of overtime, inexperience and unprofessional management that led to issues with over-budgeting, poor scheduling, poor time management, and then later reviews indicate that employees were being micromanaged as well. Some employees note that they were aware of the player-base complaints and frustrations of the studio ignoring them. Another review points out that the company is outright stealing content, and another states that they were allegedly making this misleading ads. Reading even more reviews, the interview process consisted of requiring you to do unpaid labor for them, and then they ghost or deny the applicant as a way to get free work. One person who was applying as an illustrator was tasked to take a sample character card and turn it into an SD illustration and mail it back within a week. Others stated that their unpaid labor that they had to do during their interview process didn't really relate to the job the applicant was applying for and was a research assignment which entails the applicant to choose one gacha game from the list, which one review clarified that none of them were developed by the company itself. Read through the game's main story and compile a list of 15 different techniques used within it to sell the appeal of gacha game characters to players. If I had to guess what was on the list. Seeing all of this definitely explains why the game was delayed so much with a different reason every time. The high turnover rate probably is the reason why this game stuck around for so long in production after the pandemic hit. Despite being ready for release, also the allegedly over-budgeting claims can explain how they were able to afford really amazing voice actors and character art, but not background artists and some of the background music. That could explain why there's so much quote-unquote inspiration of other media like the random Gojo professor, all the cats with the minimal cat collecting gameplay, the 7 dorms set up from Twisted Wonderland, the OnStar-like art style, the Otome-like chat logs, and literally recreating Jade and hiring Jade's voice actor to play him. That was just insane to me that they could pull that off. Sure, he looks different, but his personality might as well be the same character. Anyways, so it looks like they don't even care about their employees, so why would they care about their player base, let alone the games they're putting out? This game should have just been a webcomic if I'm being honest. The CGs already have that format, and I think they would have had better luck advertising it as a webcomic instead of a game. I think the only reason why they continued the production of the game instead of canceling it is because they've wanted to test the waters in the rising mobile Otome game landscape, and any money they get out of this is better than nothing, according to what they think. I'm assuming. Then they made it into a gacha because they've seen how popular Twisted Wonderland and Obey Me were doing recently. Which is sad because a really fun mystery story is right there. Tokyo Debunker is leagues better than Evertale in terms of promising what the game actually offers. Sure, you might say, well, I don't care about AI art and the misleading ads, I'm still gonna play it. Okay, fine. Ignore their scammy interview process, their treatment of their former employees, and other rush aspects of the game. Eventually, you're gonna hit a point where they will start asking for tons of money from you in order to keep playing the game. You won't be able to get past like a certain case number, like 150 or whatever, and you can't get any SSR cards with the free gems that they give you. Now what? You spent so much time already, so might as well give in? No, please don't waste your time and money like that. You deserve better. Here's what I think they can do to make this game better. First, get a background artist. Again, the whole selling point of this game is the art. If you want your game to be popular, you can't betray your fan artists as well. That's just shooting yourself in the foot. Second, lower the prices and reduce the amount of shops in this game. You'll get more money if people can afford to buy your packs and gems. I promise. 3, separate the warding cards and the character cards into different banners so people have an actual chance on getting SSRs. And also lose the 500 pity. That's just, you might as well have no pity at all. 4, get rid of the battle gameplay. There's literally no point if the only thing the player can do is watch or skip to the results screen. In my opinion, if you want to add battles in, make meaningful gameplay. 5, add proper auto moderation. You probably don't want people scamming money out of your player base. Probably. 6, improve the GUI, especially the low resolution sprites in the training section of the game and the text leaking outside of the chat bubbles in the chat logs. The way it looks now, it just feels so overwhelming and cluttered and not polished, especially when I'm at the home screen. 7, have a more concise tutorial section that explains everything. I had to go into global chat to figure out where I can erase my affinity to unlock the chat side stories, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who had to do that. Now, you may be asking, Rose, why the hell you're giving criticism to a studio that has a history of being very predatory to its player base and outright ignoring feedback? Well, I don't want the work of talents who worked on this game to not go to waste. If I'm being honest, I actually wanted to see the initial concept of the first game. It sounded like a lot of fun. Was it original? No, but every type of media takes inspiration from something. Not to the level that Zigzag Games were doing, but I digress. Would I recommend people to play this game? No, not at all. Just play any of the other games they took inspiration from instead. Or if you really want an Otome game with horror aspects or dark themes, play these instead. As fun as it was, there really wasn't any other original ideas except for the mystery part of the story. That was pretty much it, and I'm pretty sure they rehashed that from the initial concept and then just put it in here. But I could be wrong. The last thing I want for Otome game players is to be preyed upon by greedy companies that are trying to get a quick buck with cheap gacha titles. Yes, we need to support the genre so we can get more awesome Otome games from different game developers, but we shouldn't let companies take advantage of us like this. At the end of the day, despite hiring such talented voice actors, creating expressive live 2D characters, entertaining mysteries with intriguing aspects of horror, and hiring a really good artist for their webcomic art, their gacha rates, similarities to other games, and use of AI art cheapen their product, making it clear that the studio is in it for the money and not because they want to sell a high quality story to Otome players. What do you guys think? Do you think Tokyo Debunkers is good as it is? What changes do you want to see in the game in the future? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!